portal and everything that goes with it?
Probably not as much as we should, honestly.
Yeah.
There's obviously conversations that take place, and guys have known each other for a long time. But I do think that's one thing that we probably could do a better job of, is just making sure that we're willing to communicate with each other. You should be able to call anybody up here and say, hey, man, I got a question about this. This happened. I'm not comfortable with this. What can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? Because, look, at the end of the day, this game is about the kids. It's about the players that play the game. We want to make sure that those guys are taken care of, and we want them to have the best opportunity to do that. But at the same time, we're trying to build programs, and we're trying to keep our jobs. And it's a fight, man. There's a lot of good football coaches up here at great schools that have had tremendous amount of success. It's incredibly competitive. But at the same time, we got to make sure that we can lay our head down at night and feel good about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it all begins with communication. And I do think we've got to improve that, continue to do a good job of developing that communication amongst each other.
And Prime, you were talking about it during your presser about NIL and what these players deserve and how the game is modified to that point. From where you sit, doing it at the highest level in the NFL, how do you believe NIL should be guardrailed now, especially with the revenue sharing?
I wish it was a cap. Like the top of the line player makes this, and if you're not that type of guy, you're not going to make that. That's what the NFL does. So the problem is you got a guy that's not that darn good, but he could go to another school and give him $500,000. You can't compete with that. That don't make sense. And you're talking about equality, not equality, like equal. I guess equality. And all you have to do is look at the playoffs and see what those teams spent. And you understand darn near why they're in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to compete with somebody who's giving $25-30 million to a darn freshman class.
Right.
It's crazy. We're not complaining because all these coaches up here could coach their butts off and give them the right opportunity with the right players and play here and there, you'll be there. But it's what's going on right now don't make sense. And we want to say stuff, but we're trying to be professional. But you're going to see the same teams darn near at the end and with somebody who sneaks up in there. But the team that pays the most is going to be there in the end.
So why not say something? Get together, unify. Coach Gundy, why not say something about it?
Well, I think what Coach said is right, and we're all wanting to prepare and instill quality information and confidence in our team. And I don't think that any coach wants to say, well, our players aren't good enough and we need to give them more money and we need to swap them out for other players. But I will say this, I've been in the league a long time, and this group, in my opinion, is as strong as it's been and has the best opportunity to come together and make decisions for what Coach Dykes said. This is all about the players. A lot of times they talk about us and that, and we don't want it to be about us. We want it to be about the players, and we really need to get some guardrails to eliminate the things that are going on from a tampering standpoint and players that are coming out of high school that are getting way too much money before they've ever made a play on game day. That's how I feel personally about it. I'm okay with paying the players that are producing.
Yeah.
And that's the NFL model that I believe that some of what we pattern ourselves out of needs to be that. Now, we're not going to be the NFL, but that's been a very successful business model for 50 plus years. And there's a lot of ways we can look at that. But again, we're going to head back into collective bargaining, and nobody wants to go in that direction at this time.
Yeah, and it's come up. Maybe if the players are going to get paid, they sign contracts. And at that point, then they technically become a professional athlete. They're getting paid and they're signing the contract. Would something like that in your mind, Coach Rodriguez, help if you say, we're going to pay you this money, but you're going to be here for 3 years because you signed for the money, that's where you're going to be?
Yeah, it's just my personal opinion. I don't know how you guy can make $500,000 a year and have a contract and not be an employee. You know what I mean? So, the CBA thing has probably got to get that way. I think it's a little better than it was a month ago, but it's still a fix that has to happen. My biggest beef is that all these coaches up here are good coaches that understand the profession. They wouldn't have got to this position, right? So but my hope and wish would be that the coaches and the athletic directors and the commissioners are at the forefront of making a decision what's best for college sports and college football than somebody that's not done this for a lifetime. And I'm speaking just from my personal opinion. Somebody ask one of our opinions, or ask our ADs, or ask our commissioners, what do you think is best for college sports? How do we fix it right now? Now I know we got to get congressional help, and I'm going on my soapbox here, but there's not anything that we can't fix. But you got to talk to the right people and have the right people making the decision to fix it. Because if you don't think we don't have our players' best interests at heart, you don't understand the profession either and what we got into it for. So, none of us, like I said, I know we're talking, some of us kind of came up, the small school way and then earned success, and our players are getting the same message. We don't want entitlement, we want earned success. But I think the powers to be, whoever that is, maybe needs to give these coaches and these athletic directors and these commissioners a little bit more control over how the college athletics is going to go in the future.
And